Oh, here, how about this one? Here.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Online version.
Yeah. Oh, I just got one from
Okay,
Lynn.
there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. We should be live. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, welcome to the October 8th meeting of the Salem Public Art Commission. And calling it to order. And what we usually do is go around and introduce all of our everyone that's at the meeting. We wanted to make a special welcome to Jesus Escobar, our most recent member of the commission. So maybe we start with you, Jesus, and maybe just say a little bit about yourself if you don't mind, and then we'll just go around the room and everyone just introduce themselves.
My name is Jesus Escobar. I'm also an artist here in town, born and raised in Salem. Happy to be here.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
Carl Roth, Commissioner.
Brian Hart, Commissioner.
Jennifer Keller, Parks and Rec Division Manager.
Linda Beerley, Treasurer, Salem Parks Foundation.
Lynn Takata.
Carly Wright, Press Play Salem, devoted art enthusiast.
I'm Susan Apak, I'm the chair, and we have Krista on.
Hi, Krista Lauer, Commissioner.
Okay, and
I'm Kathleen Swarm, the staff liaison.
next order on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone wishes to address the commission on any matter other than those that appear in the agenda? Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Oh, does it appear in the agenda?
It does.
It does.
Okay,
Yeah.
which one is
It does. It's item 4CI.
Actually, we're gonna be moving that up, so for the approval of the agenda, in light of the public comments that we do have for subcommittee report CII, we're gonna move that up so that we can accommodate people here and other public comments that we've gotten. So what I'd want is to approve the consent agenda with that change to the agenda for today. And then for the minutes of September 10th that were submitted to us. So we need a motion. I guess I make a motion that we approve that. We need a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, consent agenda is approved. So we were gonna move right along to the public mural and application review subcommittee. And this is following research provided by the subcommittee. The commission made two motions. The first was to look into reducing the length of the easement, which currently is 7 years, required for a mural. And the second was to allow artists to retain copyright to works of art that are added to the public art collection while the city would hold a non-exclusive license. The city's attorney's office is researching the request and will update the commission and findings. I'm gonna hand this over to Brian and his subcommittee to kind of talk about a little bit, and then we can hear the public comment.
Okay, yeah. Great, thank you. So first I want to talk about the things that we have made progress on, which is updating the website mural application. We got those taken care of. The 12 paper copies are gone. The meeting frequency is updated, and most importantly, your information is correct. It's now Kathleen, which is great. And it sounds like the easement part might even be something that we can change ourselves, which is great news as well. And they're looking at that, so fingers crossed that that's going to work out and go quickly. So next, I want to talk about the copyright specifically. I think there was some kind of just a request for more information on that decision of why we proposed that recommendation motion last month. I did a really quick poll, an online poll, because we wanted some real world examples. So I started this on Monday morning, well, actually technically Sunday night, really late is when I put it live, but most people started responding in the morning. And it's Wednesday now, so just a couple days, and we've had 29 was the last time I checked, people that responded to that. So these are, I believe, all artists and artist enthusiasts in the Salem area. So the results were pretty overwhelming. 86% said retaining copyright is very important, and 14% said it was somewhat important. So there was an option. If it's not important, 0%. Nobody said that it was not important for artists to keep the copyright and rights to their work. 96% said they would be more likely to apply for public art projects if they kept the copyright. So those are pretty big numbers. Then there was a question, and it says 64% said that the current code discourages them, and 60% said that they were unaware of the code, unaware of that the artists don't get to keep the copyright at all. And you could have both of those as answers, which kind of is another really good indicator that, we've talked about getting the word out. People don't even know who the commission is and what some of the rules are. And we just voted for a retroactive mural. So I just thought that was a really interesting thing to know, that a lot of people don't know these things. Some of the quotes from the people that took the survey: copyright is part of making a living through prints. When the city owns it, it limits how I can use my own work. Another quote was, I don't want my artwork to be reused or edited without my permission. Artists should have control of how their work is representative. So there was an opportunity to provide comments through that online form. Plus we've got public comment here today, and 3, I believe, written public comments, one from Councillor Nordyke and 2 from people of Salem. So I kind of also outlined the current copyright ownership and how this actually can create more work for a city. So our current standing, because I know that that's a big thought on the city's mind as well. It's reducing staff burden, but also keeping the ability to do what they need to do with art. And so if they had a non-exclusive agreement with the art and the artist, that would still allow them to move it. If there's like something at the Civic Center where we're having to relocate a bunch of art, they wouldn't have to hunt down the artist, or if the artist passed away, find how to get that permission. They have permission there. So we can build in a really good non-exclusive agreement that gives them the opportunity to put it in their flyers, on their website, do a lot of things that they can do. Right now, we kind of have it flipped, where the artist gets non-exclusive rights. So they can promote it on their Instagram, they can put it in their portfolio, they can put it on grants, but I think it's important that it's kind of flipped. So the city can do what they want, but the artist keeps the artwork, keeps the rights to that. I think that was kind of our intent. So when the city owns copyright, there's more work that goes with that. Any dispute has to be resolved by the city because they own the copyright, so that can increase more work. Actually, when I started looking at borrower rights, that still might apply. So there's a government thing called the borrower rights. I think it's the borrower moral rights. That means that the artist still might have rights to their works, and that might create a conflict. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know how that works. That's something to consider as well, that even though they have copyright and exclusive rights, that there might be other grounds if the artist really wanted to fight that. So I have a bunch of other kind of reasons why, but I really want to open it up to discussion. I will say in the closing statement that and I want to read this so I get it right, our goal isn't to take anything away from the city. Is to simplify the system and make it work better for everyone. When Salem owns the copyright, staff becomes managers of every permission and dispute tied to that artwork. And I don't think that that's where the value of public art lives. A simple, perpetual, non-exclusive license keeps the city protective, saves staff's time, and tells the artist that Salem values partnership over paperwork. And that's how we kind of modernize a policy without losing control, and how to keep creativity flowing in the city. So that's kind of my update, our update.
Anyone else from the committee wanna?
A couple like,
Yeah.
little housekeeping items. So there is an addendum to the agenda that was sent out and available. And it has the public comments that have been mentioned here today. And, your final statement, Brian, it would be, that statement is coming from Brian as a
Yes.
person, not the
Yes.
commission. The commission has not made any sort of formal proposal or anything moving forward.
I just wanted to note that about the copyright and titles work applies to everything in the collection, not just murals.
Right, that's true.
That's correct, yeah.
We have public comment here today.
I'm here as public comment.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Say your name again.
My name is Carly Wright. I'm here as an artist and a potential person who has not applied for mural because of the copyright limitations. Being that I agree that having it so that it's changed so that the city can still use it in every capacity to promote the city and promote the art, but also as an artist, being able to still make a livelihood off of that art, and then also using it in other inspiration and derivations for it, potential other things. And it also, I think, helps draw attention to the art that's created that the city uses well, because then you're promoting on all aspects. And it is that, I think, partnership and over paperwork. Yeah, so I'm just here to hopefully help see some changes made that will encourage more artists to submit and build a stronger relationship between the city and the creatives in Salem.
Thank you.
Thank you, God.
Thanks. Do we have other public testimony? Or comments?
I have a comment. I appreciate the work that's been done, especially the outreach to the community. And there seems to be strong consensus in terms of making a shift. I reviewed the testimony that came in from Jessica Ramey, and I just want to make sure that as any language is crafted that would come to this commission for approval, that we would make sure that the artist is granting rights to the city for non-exclusive use with attribution, so that if the city is going to reproduce any work of art, that would be associated with that artist's name, which would be a shift from what the city does now. So I just want to get that on the record.
And so what I think would be helpful for our city attorneys as they look into this is real life examples of what isn't happening now and what would be helpful if it were to change. And then if we could apply this to the artwork that we have. So one prompt that we could use is that there is a bronze statue outside this building. So what would that mean for the artist to retain the copyright to that work? And what does it mean that they don't have the copyright to that work currently?
Well, for instance, what Chris just said is that the attribution would have to be with the artist and not the city. Is that what you're saying, that currently that's not happening, that the artist is not given attribution?
Right now, when the city requests, let's just use the historic landmarks photography contest. The winner of that contest relinquishes all rights to future use of those images. The city gains the right to use that image in whatever way it deems useful without giving any attribution to the artist, an artist of any age, a kid, a grown-up, an amateur, professional. Okay, but let's go to Kathleen's question. So we have a monumental sculpture, it's a cast bronze piece. I don't know what the artist originally committed to in his proposal, but let's say that Mr. Rude, I think that's his last name, intended to be able to recast that piece for maybe a site in Walla Walla where he lives, or maybe a site in Bend. Those would be the kinds of things that he would want to maybe retain the rights to. Maybe the city wants to make sure that nobody else can have this unique work of art. So they might say, we don't want you to, we don't want to grant you that right. Those kinds of things. But I'll use the example in a different jurisdiction where I've lived, where the state had a large collection of portable works for loan to various state buildings. And we had a pretty strong copyright agreement, a purchase agreement that we signed with the artist, which required the state to go back to the artist and say, our agricultural department wishes to reproduce your landscape painting on the cover of a guide to insecticides. Well, the artist said, thank you for checking with me. I grew up in Florida where insecticides were harmful to humans and the environment. And I deny you permission to use my work of art on something that had to do with pesticides. That's one example. Ideally, when the city acquires a work of art, it would sign a purchase agreement, which would run through some of these rights and either grant them, the artist was, in my case, always retained a copyright. And then some artists probably don't want their art on a phone book or a placemat. Or if they do, they might want compensation. So I think your suggestion, Kathleen, for looking at best practices and examples from other areas, other arts commissions would be useful.
Yeah, and so I have another real world example that I can share as well. So again, this is me talking as a citizen of Salem, not on behalf of SPAC and our opinions. But a few things. So we're working on right now the beginning stages of a big mural in Salem, downtown Salem, that's not in the historic district, so that part's covered. But as we're starting to plan it, when I first asked the artist, I said, I have to disclose that you're not gonna get the copyright because right now you have to sign it off. And it was a visible like, what? Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know the direct quote, but she was taken aback. She's from Portland, so she was very unaware that that kind of policy exists. She still wanted to do it because the mural means a lot to her, but she's giving up her rights, and it was a big deal for her. Now, someone that's going to try to raise $250,000 to produce this mural, one of the ways is to get grants and things like that. I can use the mock-up for grant applications, but if we want to do any kind of crowdfunding, we can't sell the rights, because if we sign that contract before the mural's in place and do what we're supposed to do, we automatically give up all rights to that. And we couldn't, if we're crowdfunded, one of the things is like, get a signed print, or if you donate $1,000, you get a signed print, and that helps us raise money for that mural. So those are considerations that are pretty dramatic when you're trying to raise that kind of money. And then also, in the meantime, you have to after the artwork is up, you have to maintain the work. And another really easy way would be able to sell a print, or put it on a t-shirt, do something that we're proud of, especially the artist wants to promote their work, and they have no ability to do that at all. And the non-exclusive agreement, that I think the lawyers can come up with a really airtight one that gives them all of the things that they need to do. to be able to put it on their website and do things like that with attribution. I think that's a really good point, to make sure that the artist is always recognized in that reproduction of work, but it gives them a lot of flexibility still. And if they wanted to sell tchotchkes or some kind of thing based on that likeness, they could then have another exclusive right agreement with that artist when the time comes. As far as I know, that's never happened. Or it doesn't happen very often, as far as I know. I don't have a definitive answer to that, but there are avenues that the city can take if they want to expand rights with the artists, but it's still a little bit more in their control, I think is a really good idea.
Should we, is the city attorney?
No, Mark isn't here in
Oh,
this
'cause we
meeting.
were, okay, because we had said that the attorney's office is researching.
They're aware, they've been made aware through public comment, engagement with counselors. And after our last meeting, I forwarded motions to them, so they are aware of this. Lynn here has something to add, and then we can circle back around on kind of next steps.
This is a great conversation and I do support the change and, you know, protecting the city, but giving artists rights. One thing that if the artist doesn't have the copyright, if the artist wanted to publish a book of their work, they would not be able to sell it. And they would not be able to sell prints. And also early in my career, I had copyrighted work that I had to protect through an attorney because another artist took pictures of my work, published in France in a publication, published in New York City in a publication with his name on it. And so we had to write him a letter and say, please do not do this. Or, you know, if it's done again, then you will face a lawsuit. The city is not going to protect the intellectual property rights of an artist. They don't have, the city doesn't have the resources, but keeping, you know, your right to your work is important as an artist.
Just one comment, it's my understanding that an artist who creates a work of art automatically has the rights to that work. And that it's not like they could go and register it as a, you know, get a registered copyright, but it isn't necessary because it automatically does, they do have the title to the work, so they would have to surrender that title in our current system.
Yeah, from what I know of copyright law, it's very detailed. And so I can't speak to what is implied copyright and what is not. So I have heard from the city attorney's office that they are looking into this. The next step that they would look for from the commission is for us to bring this to council. And we would have a recommendation moved to council. And what I would suggest as the staff liaison is that we need to get that detailed. So whatever we move forward to council, we kind of want it outlined very specifically of what the commission recommends, whether it includes the specifics that we've talked about today. I think some of the public comments are a nice starting place for the suggestion. There's going to need to be some serious discussion amongst the commission regarding the specifics of what we would like to recommend to council. Council would then receive that recommendation and they get to choose what to do next. Sometimes one thing that could happen is that council would recommend that city staff would look into making these changes to code. That's one potential direction it could go into, but city attorney's office, next step for us is to make a recommendation to council.
Brian, you've done so much work on crafting the language that's been crafted, researching language that's been crafted for other commission. Do you feel confident that you could come up with a crafted, version of what we would present to council, and then we could vote on it and discuss, you could discuss it with your committee first, perhaps? And just
Well,
get
no
that
recommend,
crafted?
a recommendation can't be discussed in a subcommittee. Unless that
okay.
subcommittee is a public meeting. And
So
that is
scratch that
possible.
part of it.
It is possible, you as a singular commissioner, you could come to the commission with a formed recommendation for council that then can be discussed here at a public meeting. But there can't be subcommittee discussion or recommendation made outside of the larger group unless we do make that a public meeting.
Well, you've already done the research, which is part of what you did within the subcommittee, so that's kind of done. Do you think you could do that and present it at the next meeting, and then we could vote on moving it forward to council or changing any language that we would wanted to discuss? I think we've discussed it a lot already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Susan, then I would say, make that motion.
Okay, so the motion would be to direct Brian to craft a proposed
Recommendation to council.
right, but craft the actual change of what it would be to then present to council, present to us at the next meeting so that we can move it forward to council as our recommendation. So that's the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Great. Thank you very much. All right, and thank you to everyone who made public comment, all of the letters we got and the polling and so forth. Thank you for coming. Art labels. Let's see. Many of the art labels need to be replaced or updated. Various public art collection sculptures, including the cube, the black discs, the receptacle. I'm not sure which one that is. Convention center.
It's the mill cat sculpture.
Which one is it?
That's the mill cat sculpture that was
Oh,
moved because of
okay.
the construction.
Right. Convention center, sculpture garden works, and in a quiet meadow. Labels of artworks transferred from the public library foundation to the public art collection, and labels for art temporarily located. I think we have a lot of those labels, the ones that were located at the Civic Center, but some may still be missing. So we need to discuss next steps and approach for managing the project. I think we got some information about who produced the labels. Didn't we have some information on that previously? Who did those?
For the library collection and the
Those
civic
are the-
center.
And the Civic Center?
Those labels exist
Yes.
and the files exist.
I thought you sent us something about.
Who, the company that did the printing?
Yeah.
We do have an invoice for the company that printed the labels, so we
Okay.
could get them printed at the same location, which might be
Okay.
helpful. But a lot of work actually needs to go into actually creating the labels themselves.
I would say we need a committee to figure out the next steps for doing that, because we first off, we need to identify every piece that needs a label, whether it just be the ones that have to be changed or brand new labels. And then figure out which ones need the outdoor labels and indoor labels, and if someone needs to write them, and there's a possibility that we can call on someone who wrote the original labels for the library. They might be interested in helping out with that. But I would think that we need to put our heads together and move that along. Did we have a committee to start with at any point?
We have not.
Would there be any volunteers that would want to work on that?
The library, the labels for all of the works in the Salem Public Library that were owned by the foundation and were transferred to the city, those labels, the label copy exists. It is in digital form. It can have a sentence addition that refers to the transfer and the date. That's a big bunch of the work. Then you've got the outdoor work and the idea, and I presented some examples of approaches to outdoor sculpture labels several months ago. So the city can pick, we like this approach, we like this approach, we like this approach, and then figure out who a manufacturer is. Rick Yerk, who is the board chair of the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, suggested a label format for the convention center sculptures because those pieces are really exposed. There's a lot of road dust and grit. There's southern exposure, and then we have the Oregon weather. So the labels that are there now have literally been sandblasted and just baked by the sun. He can be approached for, okay, this is what I think his approach might work, it might not. So I don't think it's monumental, and it looks like Kathleen's, you've pulled together a list at least of, okay, here are the obvious ones, I have to double check if we're missing anything. I will say that the team that worked on the library labels, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of tedious work. So I don't know if any of those people would come back. That's a long shot. But it might be the easiest to start with the Library Foundation. I would think that in that agreement that the city signed, there would be an inventory of works. So we wouldn't have to go around with the clipboard. There probably is an inventory.
We do have a list of works.
Okay, so maybe start with that.
Is this something that city staff can help us with in terms of getting a list of all of the artworks that need the labels?
There is limited city staff available for this type of work. What I could do is investigate how much time we could dedicate to a project like this, and come back to the commission and let you know like what a realistic allotment of time could potentially be. The more that the commission could support or volunteers could support, the further it's going to go because we are very limited on staff.
I think it would be, if you could get the inventory of the works from the library, those are all indoor pieces except for that piece in the meadow at the entrance. That would be an easy place to start. The label copy doesn't need to be rewritten. It just needs an addition. So and I honestly don't know if there were 30 works, 20 works, fewer than 20, but that's probably the biggest grouping. And then looking at the outdoor sculpture. I mean, I can volunteer and follow up with Rick to get the specs of what he thought might work at the convention center.
Is there a list of the works in the sculpture garden there that need the labels?
Oh, I'm sure I could get you that list in a day.
Okay.
I will commit to that
Okay.
because there really are, I think, 7 pieces tops.
Okay. I could help with, if you could provide that list, and we do have a list of the works at the library. And someone actually who did Eileen Cotter Howell, who did those labels, I believe, still has those files, or we have access to those files. And we'll see how much work it entails, to craft. We do need to craft one statement about that it's the gift of the, whatever. So I will work on that if you can help provide that. And any other sculptures around town that we know of, in addition to those that are listed here that might need labels as well, we'd need to do that too. So, we can work together on that.
Yeah, these spec files include all of the files that were created for the library works that group, I believe, spent 3 years crafting those labels. So it, as Chris said, it's very time intensive. So we do have those files that I'd be happy to share with you guys. And then we have also the list that was of artwork that was transferred from the Library Foundation into the public collection. So those could easily be cross-referenced, and then the additional edit of what we would like to add to the label, those labels could be identified and that could be added. Again, I'll have to check in to see how much admin time the city has and staff has to put towards a project like this. But sharing those files with you guys could be a good start. And then you would have a sense of, what even that portion of the project would entail.
Again, the labels, they are clearly written. They've been fact checked, they've been copy edited. It's a matter of adding a sentence to the various works that were transferred.
And deleting that property. I think it says in the collection of the Salem
Library Foundation.
So that needs to come out, and then, so it's what, 10 minutes on each label, something like that for a graphic designer.
But the graphic standard for the labels has been established, the font, the size,
Right.
That's done.
That's revising each one.
Right.
And
And then getting
then
them
getting a
printed.
cost for how much it would cost for us to have these printed and mounted.
That was not expensive. I know that because I was on the commission at that time.
Who did that?
I think it was Salem Blue, but
We have the
Kathleen
invoice
gave,
and records.
she gave us the information. I just can't remember.
All right, well, we can work on that. We don't need any motions on that at this point? No. Okay. Thank you. Move on to periodic public art collection condition reports. And I asked for this to put in because we are getting piecemeal. Well, it says the spec guidelines, policies, and procedures state the commission or members of the commission will review the condition of the works of art in the collection, and a condition report will be completed. This report will contain the object ID number, the name of the artist, the title of the work of art, and a report on the condition of the work of art. The commission will discuss an approach to meet this goal. This is not something that we've actually done because my whole time on the commission, I don't know about you, Chris, but things, we'd get reports, oh, this has a ding in it, this one's rusting, this one's loose, but we haven't had a consistent, regular approach to really looking at the artwork in the collection and making some kind of evaluation whether it needs to be worked on and considered, as a something to repair. Does anyone have any ideas of how we can go about doing this? Maybe if each of us kind of select some artworks, or we have a community adopt an artwork, I don't know. Any ideas on how the best way to approach it without having to put so much time into it, but getting accurate results?
Is there, how, we're supposed to do this like once a year or just keep tabs on it generally, or how does that?
I believe in our
I know it's, the language is in there somewhere.
yeah, I believe the policies actually say biannually, which
Twice.
is very frequent for some of the pieces. And so I mean, there's a lot of different approaches the commission could take, because there's a lot of different types of artworks.
So you want to have kind of a running database that can be added to when someone notices some problem.
I was thinking more of a preemptive kind of thing, rather than having someone come to us and say they noticed something. It's like
Yeah.
that we could, maybe, especially the works that are outdoors, maybe have a list, and each of us kind of select, I don't know how many pieces we have that are out in the elements, just to periodically go and check on them. Whether it has to be, within a schedule or something, I don't know, but just kind of get a list of those up.
Yeah, I see, Chris, I almost see you pausing. I'm leaning towards you just because you have a background and understanding of how these sort of condition reports, how they play a major role in just the upkeep of artwork in a database.
Yeah, every artwork should have a condition report, and it should be updated even if nothing has been damaged or anything like that. So realistically, I think if we can do a condition report for every artwork once a year, if there are no changes, you just mark on there no changes. But that way, we also just have we have documentation. I think that's the problem right now too, is there's just no set way of identifying these and seeing what has happened in the past. In our current database, if there has been any damage or conservation, we have some records with that, but even that hasn't been consistent in terms of how we're keeping records. So, there are, and some of the works also already have condition reports, but I'd say it's maybe 10% of what's in our database has a condition report. So, there is a template, there is a form already, but I do think having regular upkeep and check-ins is great. And then if someone does come to us and they identify a problem, also going and documenting that properly. I think it's in the best nature of having a collection and us being stewards of that collection. So, I used to do it at the museum all the time. I'm happy to help with this project because I do think it's important. So what I could do by the next meeting is identify all the works that currently have a condition report. So just make a little spreadsheet with that and then identify the ones that need it. I can kind of show you as well the current template that we have, if it works for everybody, and if we don't think there need to be any changes or addendums, I can just continue to use that template and start kind of going through and updating all of that.
That sounds great.
That'd be great, Krista. Yeah, because then we can figure out where we need to move from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would say that the timing on this is nice as we come near the end of the year. Last year, we started talking about a work plan, and we got a very rough work plan together that outlines what we'd be doing throughout the year. Getting a condition report onto an annual work plan that says we're doing this work in this month is definitely something I would encourage us to move towards, and having these discussions now would set us up in a good position to create a work plan for next year that would say, for instance, we're doing this section, completing, a condition report on this section of our collection in this month, and this section in this month, for an example. You guys can decide an approach, but it works nicely with that.
Is there any other department in the city where they do something similar? Do parks do it with park equipment, things like that?
We do. We utilize CityWorks. So actually for our amenities is they're posted in there. So we have pictures, we have exact location of where they're housed. And then as we do taking playgrounds, for example, we're required to do playground inspections, is every time there's inspection, that information is uploaded. So everything is in one central location. So at any point you can look at that item, you can see every time it was serviced, every time it was something was replaced on it, everything, it's in a centralized location for that specific amenity. So that's how we track kind of what's been maintained and what's not. For playgrounds, we're required to do those certain times, every quarter we have to do those. So there is a time frame associated by law that we have to deal with that. But if it was something that was not, I guess, code driven or statutorily driven, you could identify if it's an annual kind of an assessment, here's the form that's filled out, and then that information could be uploaded and provided into those documents. So we do that through CityWorks. A lot of the departments, operational departments, are utilizing CityWorks for, underlying pipes, underlying things, all of those kinds of amenities and infrastructure for the city. So a similar approach could be used. And then you also have a track of if that something has moved, right? So not only changing, but because art's a little different than some of the park stuff, but we do move stuff in parks, some things. But it gets moved and where it's located, and it kind of built up that historical database as well. So you can see exactly what's transpired.
And Jennifer, CityWorks works with GIS, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so GIS is actually our current database that we have for artworks. So this same database that Jennifer is referring to is the same basic foundation of what we have. So we can build on the database that we have and utilize it in this way, I believe. So we're going to talk about database, maybe even next.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of see how that might work, and we need to definitely do our work with this database and get in there and understand how it works, and because we haven't done much with it.
Kathleen, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I know we are going to talk about the database, but do you know in the current GIS, because I know that's one of the things is that like we're going to hopefully do a deep dive with IT to actually see what the capabilities are. Do you know off the top of your head though, if it's something that can include attachments for artworks, things like that?
It can, yeah.
Okay.
It can, yes.
Yeah, so then having some, like if we do these condition reports, being able to attach them and have them associated with all the artworks would be really great to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Do all commissioners have access to the database?
I don't believe you guys have complete full access. I think you were given access maybe even before I became staff liaison. And we can go through and share that again. The basic access that you guys were given was to review the maps. But the layer deeper is what we're talking about, is where you actually, the information that's feeding those maps, to get in there and look at each of one of those. But, and so when we talk about database typically here, and we pull up a spreadsheet. So there is a database that we're talking about that creates the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheets that we've all seen, that's not the database. There's actually a place where all that information lives. And that's what none of us have really dove into, to really see where that information that is feeding all these external files that we create or external documents that we create, to actually get in there to where is that information living, and how is it organized, and how can we use it to keep all of our information up to date, and really get at the core source of where does all of the files for this one piece of art live, because right now they live piecemealed in several locations. So we're definitely not using our database to its full capability, in a way that this commission has also talked about using, potentially looking into getting other software. That what IT has encouraged us to do is for at least identify potentially a subcommittee or have volunteers to look at and actually take what I'll say is a tour of the GIS database, of what is there, the platform that we're actually working with, to see if it could suit our needs as much as some sort of additional software might.
Would it be unreasonable to have the city participate in analyzing some of the artworks? Especially the ones that are out, out in the public view. Not that, yeah, I wouldn't expect them to go and look at every painting in the library and things like that, but the artworks that are out in the downtown area that could pose safety issues if something's wrong with them. Would it be possible to get the city involved in doing that?
Yeah, I think,
Because it seems like a lot to ask for us to do it, frankly.
yeah.
So I just want to be
Yeah,
clear,
right.
you're asking them to assess a condition report?
Well, if with the criteria, like the cube was tottering.
For a
the-
long time.
The piece that when they were doing the construction, the Melcats piece got chipped and it should have been protected and you just noted, I guess it was you who noticed it, but I was just, if the parks people can go around and look at their park equipment, maybe we could have something like that, some staff that would be able to go around and look at the work.
I think we would have, oh, go ahead, Chris.
I think, to be just perfectly honest, it would be better to deputize some volunteers in the community or some allied nonprofit arts organizations to help with this. Because the cube has never been cleaned. There isn't a lot of work in parks, for example. And there's stuff around the Civic Center and there's stuff around the Convention Center. And I'm sure I could get the Oregon Artist Series Foundation to look at the work at the Convention Center. They hold their meetings there. And then I'm sure I could, I think it would be faster than trying to identify folks who don't have a lot of extra time to take on a project that they're not the experts in. And it would be easier to recruit some folks or some students to say, okay, someone put a Christmas hat on, good sense, it's been removed, there's nothing else, or there's a lot of bird poop on a piece at the Convention Center, and maybe we can get someone on their team who maybe helped with the installation to clean it, stuff like that. I just think there isn't that much of it, half of it's at the Convention Center, and you could address it without having to find folks who are already busy with their full-time parks work.
Sure. Yeah, I just hope we could find people. I mean, the OASF, I think, would be great, but Krista?
Yeah, I think also it's important to have somebody who has some sort of art background doing a condition report. Just because they know kind of what to look for. They'll know if something potentially is inherent to the work or if there is damage or if, so instead of, because especially everything that's indoors, you're not necessarily going to have all these scratches or bird poop or those kinds of instances. So I think you want somebody who's able to kind of look at the nuance of each artwork as well in that way. So I do think having someone with an art background as opposed to just looking for someone on city staff who might have a little free time would be a better approach.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to your report. Anyone else have anyone to comment on this?
How would people document this? Like just write it down on paper, or is there a mobile thing they could use on their device?
Kristen, what you were saying, there's a template for?
Yeah, I mean, we currently do have a template for a condition report. So essentially you're writing down the state of the artwork. And if there is an incident, usually you would do, if someone witnesses an incident, you could do an incident report, or if somebody just notices something, noting that on the same condition report. So that there is documentation. It's not just a chain of emails or in person or word of mouth.
The template is a Word document
Okay.
that basically
Yeah.
has where you fill in the name of the artwork, you fill in the date that you've done the condition report, a couple questions to prompt you towards its condition. That's the current template that we have. So that template could be used digitally on a phone, or it could be written in person by hand if you were out in the field.
But it doesn't immediately get entered into the database, which would be great, but then someone has to enter it into the database, and that kind of brings us to our next discussion is that we don't have a separate database, as Kathleen was describing. And we've been supposedly looking into other software possibilities. And then to talk to IT, to the city IT, to see whether they can provide the similar types of functions that we would need for the art, for keeping track of the art and all of the different things that we need to keep track of. I reached out to the city, the Oregon Artists Commission to see what they use. Do you know, Chris, at all what the Oregon Art Commission uses to track their artwork?
I'm sure it's very extensive and it would be an art specific thing. Yeah, I mean, we can call the office.
I called and no one called me back. I left a voicemail.
Okay, I will commit to getting an answer from a staff person at the Oregon Arts Commission.
Also, I talked to some museum people. There's something called Past Perfect Museum software that's pretty standard, industry standard. We did have a sample of what the Public Arts Archive uses. It's just a matter of taking a look at those systems and seeing how they work and how they would apply and what features are in there that we would want to include. That work as yet has not been done.
The Hallie Ford Museum uses Past Perfect, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
They do. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all of them are pretty similar. And we don't really need anything too complex. But I think first we were just gonna go through with the IT for our GIS just to really kind of understand the capabilities of what we currently have. And then if we don't think that that's adequate, then explore an additional database.
Do you think, well, you've worked with these systems before, Krista?
Yeah, I have. They're great. They're really user-friendly. But I know Kathleen wanted us to look into our current GIS since that's what we're using. It's what we're set up for. But we just haven't met with the IT person yet to actually kind of do a deep dive. So I do think that would be the next step. And then depending on what the capabilities are with the GIS, determine whether or not that would be acceptable and that would be applicable, or if it's worth our time to invest in an additional platform.
Would you have time to do that since you're seem to be the most knowledgeable about?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to.
Okay, so maybe we should schedule that before the next meeting.
Yeah, Kathleen, I think like we talked about it a while back, and no one from IT ever gave us proposed times or dates or anything. But yeah, if you and I can follow up on that, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Any other comments on that? Okay, Eco Earth Globe. Well, I don't know if I should read this whole thing. Do you want to
You
just
can just
dive
read
into the update?
The big updates are that Art Solutions Lab has confirmed their ability to complete an assessment and provide a repair and restoration estimate for the Eco Earth Globe. An expected timeline and scope for that second assessment and estimate will be shared once staff have that information.
Do you think that so would you need to undertake an agreement with them to do the assessment? And then do you think that might be like a 60-day, 30-day? No idea yet?
No idea yet how long it will take to get this second assessment back. I know project managers have requested that information as to a timeline to how long it would take.
Okay. I mean, I think it's great to get a second opinion. I worry, it's gonna rain. And so when winter's coming and, I'm just worried about whether there is anything that the city can be doing now with professional direction about moss abatement, gentle cleaning of the tiles, et cetera.
Yeah, and we have inquired with the first group, ARG, as to what should be done now, potential, how we could preserve it in its current state to the best possible ability. I think the questions you guys would all have are questions project managers are going over with them. If you introduce cleaning agents in water to remove moss and biogrowth, what are you then, you're adding more moisture. So what, you're kind of weighing the pros and cons of adding more variables, what's going to happen there. So we're trying to get a little clarity from them on what they would suggest and best practices.
I appreciate that.
I guess my only question would be, do you have any kind of timeline from ARG about the cleanup process? Do you know if they're going to get back to you like in 6 months, a year? I didn't see any hint about how long it was going to take them to get back to you.
About the guidelines for
cleaning.
cleaning and
Yeah.
maintaining in its
Yeah.
current, we're in conversations now, so they've started to answer, but we don't have, they'll give little pieces and then we ask a bunch of follow-up, and by we, I mean project managers.
So it's in progress.
It's in progress. I would imagine by our next meeting, we would have a full, what their recommendation for cleaning would be and maintaining in its current condition, and then we bring it back here for discussion on what an approach might be to undertake something like that. We're also knowing that we are working with ARG and Art Solutions Lab for, if they give us a guideline for cleaning, our second question would be, do you have the capability to do this, to complete the
You
cleaning?
being the
ARG or Art
Yeah.
Solutions
Okay.
Lab, we would go to most likely both of them
Yeah.
to ask if they had artists.
rather than the city doing it, per the recommendation.
Yes, I don't imagine they're going to come back with a recommendation of anything that the city has the skill set to complete or the staff know how to
Scrubbing
complete.
moss off objects doesn't take a lot of skill. I can attest to that.
Potentially, and if the commission was okay with the art that's under their care, with potentially volunteers, for instance, going out there and scrubbing on tile.
It's gonna take more than volunteers with a scrub brush. That's a really high, big object. People will have to be lifted up to do it. And there's some liability. And if my experience with the city serves me right, liability is a big deal.
Yeah, so then I would imagine having city staff who are not trained to do this, it's going to be a long shot that city staff would be able to do that. I haven't talked to every city division about whether they take it on. In my experience, I think it's a long shot, and I don't think that we'd have anybody be able to perform that, so we would be looking at an outside contractor to do the cleaning.
Question for you. So let's say that could happen and we would have to contract someone to do that for the short term, because the long term is gonna be long. We know
Right.
that in terms of raising enough money if we can do that. Is that something, I know you've raised a certain amount of money with the Parks Foundation. Would that be an appropriate use of the monies that you have raised to go ahead and use some of those funds to just get it maintained in the short term? Would that be okay, you
All
think,
of our
with your
fundraising-
donors?
All of our fundraising has been for restoration, not maintenance.
Would there be a way to say that it's a step toward the restoration so that they could be used for that?
So it sounds like, the city again is trying to wiggle out of responsibility for this artwork.
I'm just
And I can
posing
tell you
this,
the
I'm just
scheme is starting
posing
to
it
come
as a
out like this.
hypothetical, if it just wondering whether it would fit within your purview.
No, the short answer is no.
Okay, thank you. Anything else about the Eco Earth Globe? Okay, moving on.
Just one last comment, and I thank you for that comment, Linda, because I agree with you completely. If there is anything that we can do before year end as people consider charitable donations to help promote the fact that the Parks Foundation continues to raise money for the Eco Earth Globe, please let us know.
Some clarity would be a big help, because right now we're pretty quiet
Mhm.
about Eco Earth because we simply don't know.
Mhm.
And you all are not providing much information, to be honest. And I know you're waiting and waiting and waiting, but you know, it's really hard to go out and ask for money when you don't have specific things you need.
I get it.
We can't write grants, because grants not only want information, they want specifics about when it's gonna happen, how much it's gonna cost, and who's gonna do the work. And right now, we have none of that.
And there is urgency and so that it
Well,
doesn't
it's only money,
deteriorate more.
you know, I
yeah.
mean, but to your point, Chris, about, you know, can we raise money? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Would you give any money to something that's in so much limbo?
You know what? When I saw the most recent photographs of the condition of the globe, I will give some money.
Even if you weren't, you know, even if you were not assured that, you had no idea what was gonna happen.
Well, I agree that, quite frankly, there are too many moving pieces. So you've got the weather, you've got this thing that needs help right now. And then you've got the big fundraising goal to do it right. So, but I do think, and this is why I suggested a community meeting to hear what people have to say. And we're waiting to do that a little bit later. But, people tell me that people care about this thing.
And they do. I mean, we continue to get email, we continue to get donations, many of them from visitors to our city. I just
Well,
got
that's
a
a cool
donation
thing.
from Texas, I got a donation from North Dakota, and people care, except for apparently the city.
Well, I will continue to use my personal influence to help to get people to understand, like, this thing is in limbo, here's the big goal. And, you're giving money to a good organization anyway.
But it's for a certain project.
I get
And
it.
when you can't, there's absolutely nothing to hang your hat on here, or I can't see it. Please let me know if there is.
Well, going to Art Solutions Lab for a second opinion, I think, is so that we can see is it really gonna cost $1.5 million? Is there something that can be done? So I think it's glacial, I agree, but we are moving toward getting more answers, and hopefully by next meeting, we'll be able to have the Art Solutions Lab estimate and also guidance on what to do right now.
Our last fundraising letter will be at the printer by the time you have your next meeting. So and we'll continue to put up this vague, the picture of Eco Earth with please continue to support this project, but we will not be able to go into specifics. I mean, there's just no specifics there.
I guess
I
the
mean, if they are
specifics are that
helping
the
out.
city is looking into ways to restore it.
Yeah.
That it's got complicated.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it's not your fault.
Well-
It's not. Please don't take it on, because
Well,
it's
it's
not.
part of the collection, and we are stewards of the collection.
Right.
So I personally am sorry that it's gotten to
No,
this
I think
point.
you're doing your best. I think everybody's doing their best. With the possible exceptions of how long it took ARG and Art Solutions Lab to come up with their answers. And I don't know what's going on there. And probably it doesn't sound like Kathleen does either. So, I mean, the back and forth, it just.
Well, we'll do our best to try to get by
Yeah,
the
I
next
mean,
meeting to
believe me,
get
the entire
answers.
country is in a state of uncertainty. This is no different.
With that happy thought.
I know, am I not right?
Again, I agree with you completely.
And I think Art Solutions Lab, we have confidence in their experience. So they will be able to provide us that guidance on cleaning and maintaining in its current state. More opinions and more knowledge is always helpful. So if the commission knows of anyone who is an experienced mosaic artist or could also provide input or guidance on how we might clean and maintain this and best practices for doing so in its current condition, that sort of information will be very helpful when we decide how we're going to move into next steps.
And you have Mary Fleinsman's contact
Yes.
information, right?
Yes.
And Lynn, you're a mosaic artist, are you not?
So I haven't had a chance to read all of the
Yeah.
reports, but if water damage is an issue, it would look horrible in Riverfront Park, but keep the water off of it, wrap it. That's my recommendation. Normally to clean mosaics, a pressure washer can be used at a certain nozzle, certain volume. But if the tiles are becoming detached now, that's gonna pop off even more.
Mhm.
So I'm not clear that the moss is the issue, but certainly it appears water might be.
Mhm.
So I would say protect it before further damage is done. That's just my 2 cents.
Possibility, they had to wrap it for years while it was in progress.
Be like a Christo piece.
Well, it's not that pretty, I can tell you. And the other thing that, again, I know nothing about this, but it's my understanding that the temperature variation was huge underneath the plastic. So I don't know if that has an impact or not. It got really hot apparently.
We have different layers that are, in my opinion, expanding and contracting at different rates, which is contributing to the loss of tiles. Because the coefficient of expansion, that's why sidewalks, concrete, steel, contract and expand at approximately the same rate, so you don't have cracking. You have so many layers, that's gonna be an issue, and it's not something I could
So
even weigh
can
in.
the layers that you're wrapping, can that serve as insulation? To avoid that or not?
I don't know, it appears that you've got water that is leaching from the inside of the ball. And so to prevent more water from leaching in and then having the problem that, trying to get out again, it's just my 2 cents. When we protected the mosaic, that's what our structural engineer from Colorado recommended, is that we wrap it. The piece mosaic had no issues, but he recommended keeping water, off of it.
Well, we'll see what ARG recommends. And hopefully have some answers by the
That'll
next
be,
meeting. Sorry.
it'll be too late for our fundraising letter. It just will be. But, but
I'm sure you
anytime-
can find a way to word
Anytime
it. and,
We'll
somehow.
put our best foot forward. We'll put the Eco Earth Restoration Project, the best foot forward that we can.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, we have 8 minutes left.
Okay, Civic Center Percent for Art Subcommittee, 8 minutes. Chris put together a great summary of the walkthrough that Carl and she and I did, and there are various things to consider. There's, I did bring this schematic of the different places in the Civic Center. I think what Kathleen had recommended was that each of us who went kind of give a little, we hadn't had time to meet again to really talk about any of this, to kind of say what our general feelings are about that experience of walking through the center and seeing the various sites that are possible. And, maybe just for now, just do that. And then,
Yeah, and I think that, Chris, if you wanted to really quickly just go through the outline that you created. I think it provides a nice outline of what you guys were doing and why you were there. So if you wanted to quickly hit that, and then each person can talk about their takeaways.
Okay, I can do it quickly. I do have to leave at 1 o'clock. We walked through just one caveat. The Peace Plaza is not part of the scope of work for the Civic Center, so we walked through it, we didn't discuss it. And Daniel from Hacker was there. If you can visualize the Civic Center, we were in the area adjacent to the atrium. There are some tall stairwells that could be a possibility. Also, there's a possibility for freestanding sculptures in that plaza level under the atrium, so that would be covered. We were in the council chambers. The configuration of that space is going to change so that the council members themselves will not have their backs exposed to the people observing the proceedings. We looked at, there's a plaza area that's currently has low vegetation outside the customer service area. That could be a place for outside sculpture. There are bird issues and bird poop issues inside the higher levels of that covered atrium. They don't recommend something, for example, that's freestanding because it's very difficult to clean in there. We raised the question of the Wayne Taysom bronze door panels that previously were installed on the outside of the council chambers, hoping that there will be a place for those to be relocated. The office space itself will be not publicly accessible and kind of open cubicle space so that they're not ideally locations for new work, and the budget's about $140,000. I'll turn it over to Carl and Susan for.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Hacker's approach. I thought it was really thoughtful. The space itself is going to be, I think, really amazing. I'm really excited. They're tearing out all the existing skylights and replacing them. So I think it'll be a lot more light in there. It's also, it's very stark with the concrete, which I think makes it perfect for some big colorful art pieces to really pop in the space. So very excited. I think the budget is going to go very quickly. It's very ambitious, the 140,000, and they're proposing multiple murals and sculptures and other pieces. So we'll see how that goes. But, maybe over the years we'll be adding more to that space. But overall, I came away really impressed with their approach.
Yeah, it was great to see the space. It's I found it kind of overwhelming. I mean, I do find that structure overwhelming just when I'm in it, just because of the massive, concrete and also the scale. As an artist, I think I wouldn't want a small, even human-sized piece in there. I think it would get swallowed up, be more like a postage stamp. I think it would require, it definitely could use some color or something to put. We were told that the banisters and some of the details had been sort of a blue color, I think, before. Now that it's all black, so there's like no color in there at all. There are areas where there could be murals. I would like to know from them if they would know what areas that people actually spend time in, because when I go, I don't go there very often or haven't gone there very often, but I'm kind of walking through, maybe to go to council chambers. Getting there, I'm always late, so I wouldn't spend time in one specific spot. And if there is, well, I know like the customer service center, or even at the entrance, where we know that people would be coming in that way, maybe something to, kind of welcome people in there. But I'm kind of perplexed about where a work would go, because it would have to be substantial to make any kind of impact there.
It is sort of a strange liminal space, you're always sort of passing through it. It would be interesting to see if they have some seating arrangements and things like that that focus on things. I think one of their proposals was having a pretty large mural on that, kind of by the elevator.
The elevator.
Well, yeah,
wall.
which I think, given how gray and, severe that space is, I think some good art in there is gonna make a huge difference and really, kind of sing compared to all the gray and hard surfaces around it, so. We'll have to pick the right work, but, hopefully that'll be in our next steps too.
Yeah, so next steps, knowing that we have 2 minutes left here, is we'll put this on our agenda again for next meeting. As project managers and Hacker would like us to narrow down, they've asked of the commission to narrow down the potential locations for art. So then they could do some more development of. So that's what their ask was when they came and presented, is they presented like nearly a dozen potential locations. They're hoping us to narrow it down. I think they even mentioned 3. So if we could narrow it down to the 3 biggest potential locations in our mind that we would like them to look into.
I think our small group we should go back over there.
Yeah.
Because we were there for about an hour, we covered a lot of ground, and then that's kind of all the time we had.
Great.
I am looking forward to the light being clearer in that atrium space when they swap out the that ceiling material.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make a huge difference in that space.
Yeah,
So can we set up another meeting with them, or do you?
I think we should go over before we get up.
Right, but we need to arrange with them when a good time
Mhm.
would be for.
Oh, right, to get
To
into
the
it.
construction
Yeah.
area, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and your subcommittee can go and you're researching options, you're gathering information to then bring back to the commission for consideration.
I also do want to clarify about the Peace Plaza, because I wasn't clear on whether the Peace Plaza could be included in that percent for art or not. I wasn't clear on
I
that.
think they were originally hopeful that they can include that, and just budget wise, it's sort of one of the first things to be kind of cut. I know they're doing, they're making some changes to it and hopefully doing some long-term planning, but it sounds like it just doesn't.
There's a meeting tonight,
Yeah.
actually a presentation about the Peace Plaza,
Yeah.
the Peace Plaza. But I know that there have been other instances where there's been a project and some monies have been available. And it's been recommended and said, oh, well, let's just transfer that over to a larger project or another project. So that money can be moved around. And from what I understand, I might not be right, but I would like to get an answer on that, because I think the Peace Plaza really needs some love. And there's things that need to be restored there. There are things that could be added there. And it's a space that's kind of almost dead right now and really needs to be brought back to life. And I know that they're working on that, but possibly with art as well. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think we should take that off the table completely.
I don't either, but they made it really clear that the scope of the Civic Center seismic does not include the Peace Plaza. Like they're two separate things. The
Right.
Peace Plaza is not funded yet. So because we don't know what the ultimate design solution is gonna look like, which would then indicate what the budget might be. And so I think, but they did make it pretty clear it's coming, but it's not now.
But they were even unsure as to whether the percent for art would even apply to the work they're doing.
It might not,
in the
it's not a
Peace Plaza,
building.
which means there wouldn't be. So my question is, is that money transferable? Is that?
And based on previous conversations we've had here at the commission, I did put an inquiry into the city attorney's office. They said their interpretation is that the percent for art is the intention of that is it to be tied to a direct project. Now, when you look at the boundary, if you look at a construction boundary, they said okay, where's the entrance? How far does it go out to the road? These things could be like negotiated. There's some flexibility in there. But the intention is that percent for art is attributed to a specific project. And so it's not that you would get a percent for art for the Civic Center and then you would take it down to Riverfront Park. Peace Plaza, again, it's right there. There is some tie to this project in Peace Plaza, so there's a little flexibility, but the intention of percent for art is that Civic Center would keep that money. It's a Civic Center retrofit, and it would stay really within the construction boundaries. And really that means within the Civic Center building, of course, again, there's entryways, things like that. But that we would be getting into a gray area that would need to be further defined.
Yeah, just to clarify, I have heard in smaller projects, even like the bathrooms in the parks, you know, would have a little bit of money, or even the customer service center have a little bit, that there was a suggestion to take those monies and put them into a larger project to be put elsewhere. So that's why I even thought that could be a possibility.
Yeah,
Can you check on whether the bathroom improvements in parks even qualifies for percent for art?
yeah, I'll look, and I'm not sure
Mhm.
what was ever decided or if something moved, but in my communication with the city attorney's office, they indicated that percent for art would be
Mhm.
directly tied to the project that.
Understood.
There's usually not, let's just say, there's usually not enough money for art at these projects. So I know the decision was made by the city design folks to not commission art for the customer service center. I don't know about, like, on the state level, a project has to be $250 million before the percent for art kicks in. I don't know if the city has that same provision. So a bathroom improvement might be well under a threshold. I just don't know.
There are, I don't know the specifics, but it is definitely of a certain amount.
I'm sorry, but I have to do that.
Okay, well, there are birthday cupcakes over there. Please feel free to take some. It was Chris's birthday yesterday.
Birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
It's my birthday.
All right, and let's officially adjourn the meeting.
Yes, so meeting
One cupcake a
adjourned.
week.
We're not gonna go over any of the extra projects that we have, but thank you, everyone.